Welcome to the podcast. Súbele volumen. Conversation with the people who were with me. In the world TV. Carlos tonight. Historias de un reportero. Carlos tonight. Dale que viene lo bueno.
Hey everybody, welcome to Carlos Tonight. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. I really appreciate it. Before we begin, I want to invite you to my website, carlostonight.com. There you can find the latest on the podcast, see upcoming guests, and check out past episodes. That's carlostonight.com. This week, I want to introduce you to Nicole Angelique Kerr. She is the author of the #1 bestseller, You Are Deathless, a book about her near-death experience that has changed her life. Hey, how are you? How's it going, Nicole?
Hi, Carlos. I'm doing well today. Thank you so much for having me on your show tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for spending some time with me today. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that. So let's just jump into it. And let's start with that near-death experience. Tell us a little bit about that accident that has changed your life.
Well, I was 19 years old and I was a cadet out at our United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I will tell you that I went there because I wanted to please my father. I wasn't there because I really wanted to be there. Okay. And that's important to remember, because when you're doing something that doesn't align with who you really are and who your soul is, Spirit tries to find a way to get your attention to say, hey, this isn't the path for you. And unfortunately, it took this car crash for me at the beginning of my sophomore year there for me to get out of the military. I was pronounced dead at the scene. I was a passenger in this 1965 Corvette convertible. Another senior cadet was driving, and we were way away. We were going back to the Air Force Academy from a squadron function that we were at. And I did not realize that he had been drinking. And needless to say, he was drunk, and my memory came back 19 years later, Carlos. So I had the paramedic tell me what happened months later in the hospital. I had the doctors tell me, but I could never remember what actually happened until that time. And what I remembered and putting together the police report, the medical reports and everything was I was thrown out of the car. I was ejected through the windshield. And when I got halfway up, my body froze and I looked down and I knew I was going to die. And I cried out and I said, oh my God, help me. And at that moment, an angel came down and picked me up and took me upwards to this other realm. And while I was up in the other realm, I could look down in the ditch and see my body. Okay. So yes, our physical body does die, but our soul, that eternal soul part of us, lives on. And I was taken over to the other side by this angel. And you have to think of it kind of like Casper the Friendly Ghost, okay, that kind of outline. And when I was over there, the messages that I got were to tell other people not to be afraid of death. And I think that is so important in this day and age, Carlos, because we are a death denial society. Okay. We don't like to talk about death. We don't like to think about it. We don't think it's going to happen to us. And the irony is that I certainly didn't think it was going to happen to me as a 19-year-old. But when I was over on the other side, I also heard a message from the angels. There were other angels. And you have to understand, you're not talking in English. It's telepathy. It's vibration. It's a consciousness energy exchange that you're able to get what they're saying. And they were saying that we need to ask the angels for help. We have free will in this country as humans to make choices. So we have to ask for their help. And if it's an emergency situation like it was in mine, a near-death situation, they will act on your behalf. They will intervene on your behalf and help you if you are meant to come back. And I will tell you, at the scene of the crash, some bystanders saw the crash. They called 911. They came over, checked the victims. They could not get any kind of vitals on me. They put a blanket over me, covered me up. And by the time that the rescue units got there, it was 10 to 13 minutes. So they estimate I was clinically dead that long. And when they got to me, I had no blood. You would think all the massive injuries I had that there would be blood everywhere. My body went into such a state of shock that it's a condition called bleeding from the bones. That's what it was. So there's no blood on the ground. And they put masked pants on me to push all the blood up to my organs. And when the paramedic got there, he couldn't get any vitals either. And so the last thing he did was a sternal knuckle press, which if you're in the healthcare profession, you know that that's designed to elicit pain in the body. And my right pupil dilated. Carlos, that was the only sign of life he could get out of me. So he knew I was still alive. And have you ever heard of that saying, our eyes are the window to our soul?
Yes.
Okay, that's exactly what happened to me. My soul had left my body. And when he started to resuscitate me and work on me, my soul flew back in through that right eye. And that's why he could start getting some sign of life in me. And my blood pressure was 60 over 0. And you can see normal is 120 over 80. So that's, I was in and out of death. So they did CPR on me the entire 20 minutes to the local community hospital, got me into surgery that night. And they were just trying to stabilize me and keep me alive. I had massive injuries, lots of broken bones, amputated foot. I mean, I was bad off, and it took me 4 months in the hospital of just this up and down journey. One surgery, I actually died on the table again. They called a code blue, then they couldn't revive me. So they pronounced me dead in the OR, and went and told my parents that I had passed away. And then they revived me a couple of minutes later. So I kept wanting to leave my body, is what I will say. I wanted to go back to what I had seen on the other side, to that light. But yeah, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. And I know that was a little bit of a long explanation, but I hope that helps.
No, thank you for sharing that. I had a similar situation about 6 years ago, which is why I wanted to talk to you. So 6 years ago, I was in a car accident. I was leaving the gym on my way home when I was hit by a drunk driver. And I remember I was like the few minutes before my car was sliding into the median, I thought I was going to go over into oncoming traffic and die. I remember those couple of seconds beforehand when I said to myself, "This is it. This is how I end up." And I remember just the vision of telling my father and the impact and what it would feel like for my family. And I didn't even think about myself. And so I just remember heading that way, and then the medium kind of just stopped everything. And I remember being awake and alert, but also passing out, and then ending up in the ER. And so it was a scary moment. And like you mentioned earlier, we don't talk about death at all. I remember growing up, we never talked about death. Even though my first death experience was like my 8th grade teacher passed away, and it didn't really click. And then I had another death experience in the family in like 1989, and we really didn't talk about it at all. We went to the funeral and all that stuff, but we never mentioned it. But it wasn't until about a year and a half ago when my grandma passed away, and I got to experience for the first time death, like really up close and personal. And as you mentioned earlier, how death was or is something that's so beautiful, and I got to experience firsthand. Can you talk a little bit about why you think death is something that we should be talking about like on a regular basis?
Well, first of all, it's going to happen to every single person on this planet. Okay. So we all have that in common. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter your sexuality, any of that kind of stuff. Bottom line is, as a human, you are going to die. Okay. That's just going to be the cycle of life. So as something that's going to happen to us, we need to prepare for it. Okay. And I will tell you, yes, your physical body dies, but your soul is eternal. It lives on. Okay. This is not our first rodeo on this planet. Okay. We incarnate, our soul incarnates. And I was not raised with that belief system. I was raised in a really religious household, Southern Baptist and Lutheran. And we didn't talk about that kind of stuff in church, and older people were put in these nursing homes and these places where they were removed from the family. It wasn't like a lot of Indian, cultures and other cultures were actually, even the Jewish, they bring people, they bring the body back into a house, and they have it as part of an experience of, you get to see the person, you get to touch them. And, it's like, we're all like, oh, I don't want to touch a dead body, but we have got to change the narrative from this one of doom and gloom and depression and negativity to one of beauty and light and joy, and understand that we are really going back home. We are spiritual beings first and foremost in a human body, and our spirit goes back to the other side, back home. And that's a great comfort. And on the other side, you will see your deceased loved ones. They are there. And your pets are there. Isn't that great to know? Because sometimes
Yes.
the only unconditional love that we will ever get in our lives is from our furry friends, our feathered friends, and those little angels, I call them, will be on the other side as well. It's pure love and oneness on the other side. So please know that where you're going is this beautiful place. And it doesn't matter what age you go there at. You are not in a physical form, so you're ageless, so to speak. And it's beautiful. And I think it's very, very important that we start this conversation with kids, because I will tell you, children, if they've lost a parent, will naturally go to the other parent and say, mommy or daddy, are you going to die as well? And I understand from a parent perspective, you want to ease their worries and anxiety and say, oh, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm going to always be here. I'm going to be okay. You don't know that, because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. And it's important to have these discussions and make it age appropriate, of course, that something could happen to me. I'm in good health. I'm taking good care of my health. I don't foresee any problems. But if something out of the blue happened and I did die, I want you to know what's going to happen. You're going to go live with Uncle Carlos, and he's going to take care of you. And you're going to have to switch school districts, but you're still going to be taken care of. You don't have to worry about finances. You're going to have a home, and soothe their anxiety over it. And also, you're not lying to them, because if you did have something, God forbid, happen to you, then they're going, well, mommy lied to me, and they're angry, and they don't know what to do with these emotions because they didn't think anything could happen to you or would happen to you. So it's important that we start these dialogues now, and it's important that we start preparing for our own deaths. And it's important because I will tell you, we don't want, our generation, Carlos, doesn't want grandma's, china and silver and all of that kind of stuff. We don't entertain like that. So let grandma know that now, so she can get rid of it and give it to somebody that does want it, because so many people put off the will and the trust and the directive, all these kind of things that are important, so that the whole family knows what your wishes are, whether you want to be cremated or not. It can cause such tension and rivalry and just negativity, and actually fracturing of families at funerals. And if you look at the word funeral, fun is the first three letters of it, right? Do you think people have fun at funerals? Well, now they're trying to say it's a celebration of life, but it's about honoring the person and celebrating more so. And that is the fun in it is, and that person on the other side wants you to have fun. They want you not to be in pain. But yes, we're human, and we do experience all these hard emotions with someone's death, the grief, the sorrow, the loss. And we have to be compassionate and caring and understanding, but also keep in mind the bigger picture that's going on here, and our oneness and our soul consciousness. That is truly the most important thing.
What's some of the reaction that you get from people who pick up your book?
Well, I'm delighted to say most of the people are reading it find something in my book that they can identify with, because I not only talk about my near death experience, Carlos, I really put my heart in this book. It took me 13 years to write it. And I talk about my healing journey, what it was like to wake up and be transformed as a person, to understand that the religion I was raised in got it wrong. Okay. God is not judgmental or critical, or the wrath of God was going to come on me because I did something, quote, wrong. I didn't abide by one of the rules. That's not God in my experience on the other side at all. God is simply love, or whatever you want to call God, source, higher power, the divine intelligence, whatever. It is pure love. There is no judgment on the other side. I want to tell people the words bad and good are man-made words. Okay. We created them on earth in order to evaluate ourselves and other people. On the other side, there's no judgment because there's no bad. Okay. So it's all awesome goodness over there on the other side. So you're not going to be judged. There's no judgment. And I know people react to that and they go, well, that's not what I grew up believing. And I can't believe God would do that. And, and so I get a lot of pushback, especially on that particular lesson, that you're not judged. But I can also tell you to put that into application today. Don't judge yourself or your family members or other people, and that's one of the hardest things to do right now as a human, is not to judge others or ourselves. Don't use the word shame. Shame on you, Carlos, that you didn't do this, that, or the other. Shame is a very low vibration. It's a shaming word. So, if you binged on crackers or, popcorn or ice cream last night, don't shame yourself for doing it. Understand that it is a reaction from your body that's trying to get your attention to tell you something, and you're pushing it down and numbing it out with food or shopping or binging on Netflix or whatever it is. You're just numbing yourself out instead of actually going to the root of the problem and start dealing with some of these issues and belief systems that you continue to believe that are no longer serving your greater good. And they're causing you to sabotage yourself instead of being able to succeed.
So talking about the other side, you mentioned love and beauty. Was there ever an adjective, fear?
No, there's no fear on the other side. There's no pain on the other side. There's no suffering. There's no negativity. I don't know about you, but in my crash, since I never hit the ground, my soul left before I actually hit the ground. I have no memory of pain. The pain was when I woke up in the ICU unit the next day because I was unconscious. I was out of it for over 12 hours. I woke up and I was like, oh my God, what happened to me? I was in such pain and emotional pain and physical pain. So there's no pain upon death. And I want people to really understand that, because I know a lot of people that have been in tragic accidents, and they always wonder, did they suffer with pain before they died? And I will tell you that your soul, 99% of the time, will leave your body before the actual pain impact happens.
As far as visuals, are you able to see certain things? Is it like white, like we see on TV?
Yeah, the only memory I had for 19 years was the bright white iridescent light. It was like a tunnel. And I remembered that was all I had. And I kept asking the surgeon, is this the operating room lights? I couldn't understand it. And she said, no, Nicole, it's something supernatural. It's beyond, I can't tell you what it is because I don't understand it. But she said, you went somewhere else, and so that light was like, it was just brilliant white lights that flooded me from like all sides. And it was like a stream of light that just cocooned me and wrapping every part of me. And that's actually what was God's love, what was I was feeling. And I felt like an astronaut floating in outer space, full of just awe and wonder. It was such a soothing, comforting, beautiful feeling. It's hard to even put it into words because it really doesn't do justice to what that experience was. But that to me was the essence of God's love.
What's 3 things that you want people to walk away with from purchasing your book?
First of all, we don't die. Yes, our physical body dies, but our soul does not die. Second of all, love is all that matters, and the source of all that exists, meaning God being the source or whatever, is pure love. It's not fear in any organization or person that's trying to tell you that God is fear, or you're going to be judged, or you're going to have all this. That's not of God. That is man-made. and that everyone and everything is connected, and that we are all energy, and that we have got to start treating one another with more respect. Our planet, Mother Earth, needs to be she needs to be given more respect, and also all sentient beings. We need to respect and value them, and we are all one in the greater scheme of things. And we need to remember that all this divisiveness and fear that's going on right now, at the end of the day, we really are a collective oneness of energy. And I hope people will remember that, and to remember not to fear death, because it's going to happen. So let's get prepared and understand it and take that fear away.
Wonderful. I don't know if you can answer this, but when a person dies, is there another life that they go into, like an afterlife, or?
Well, they go back to where they came from. So it is another, it's that spiritual realm, your soul life. So yeah, and then you go over and you have a life review. And that's why it's important that everything that you say, think, and do matters, because it will come back to you in a life review. It's not a judgment, but you are going to be on the other side of what you do and say to others is going to be reflected back to you. And we all come here to learn these lessons. And we all chose to come here to learn these lessons, ultimately of love, and to remember the spiritual amnesia that we're born with, to unpack it and pull back all these layers. And you'll realize that you're perfect, that there was nothing ever wrong with you to begin with. And you bought into these false narratives that parents, authority figures, society told you that something was wrong with you. And you're not. You're love at the core, and you are worthy.
Well, I'm glad that you made it out safe, and that you're here.
And you
That
too.
we're both here.
I'm glad you did too.
I wish I could talk to you for another hour. Very fascinating. Where can people find you, pick up your book, and learn more about you?
Sure. Well, my book is You Are Deathless, and it's titled A Near-Death Experience Taught Me How to Fully Live and Not Fear Death. And if you can see up here, Carlos, do you know what that BTDT is at the end of my credentials?
Tell us.
Been there, done that. And I tell you, that is a credential you can use if you've had an experience that science or education they don't have a course in. So I use that experience to say I'm now qualified to talk about it. But I'm on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can get it. It's Kindle. I did the audible version of it. I narrated it myself, which was, I had to go back into therapy after doing that, but it was another layer of healing. Yeah. So yeah, it's only $10, and I guarantee you there's something in there from my eating disorder that developed as a result of trauma, all the way to the beautiful experience of going to the other side and knowing that we have nothing to fear regarding death is in this book as well. And I hope it helps somebody. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be on your show.
Thank you for being here. NicoleKerr.com.
Yeah. You can go to my website and contact me through that. And I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Awesome. And Nicole, thank you for sharing your story with us, not only here, but with the world, with the book. Continued success, good luck, and God bless you.
Oh, thank you. Namaste.
And that's all the time we have. Thanks so much for watching and for listening. I really appreciate it. Remember, check out my website, carlostonight.com, where you can find the latest information on the podcast, the upcoming guests, and check out past episodes. See you next time.